Since the last upgraders test a few months ago, I've had a really strong feeling about it. The experience of this game is completely different from any other shooter I've played. It left me with a kind of indescribable aftertaste, something that lingers in my mind. I'm not talking about its extraction gameplay. In fact, I'm not really a fan of third-person extraction games, because small bits of information imbalance can easily ruin the experience. Personally, I've always preferred immersion that first person brings. So why is it that this game stuck with me so deeply, to the point I felt I had to make a video about it? The answer is sound. Let's take a look at a few clips together. As a long-time player, and also from the perspective of a sound designer, I'd say Upgrader's sound design is easily at the top tier among all the games I've ever played. When I was preparing this video, I found there were actually many little details worth discussing. But this time, I want to focus on one thing: the gunfire. Coincidentally, I've been working on Gunfire design for a UE5 course recently, and it instantly reminded me of the Upgraders test from months ago. So I tried to recreate that listening experience. What makes Upgraders gun sound so special? And how do you make Gunfire feel more realistic? Let's start with comparisons. From a professional standpoint, the gun sounds in those games actually up to standard. But what makes Arc Raiders special is how it handles the tail of each shot. You can hear how clear the reflections are. They warp around your ears, as if you are truly standing out in the open. When I was starting in New York, I once went to a local indoor shooting range. Real gunfire, especially in a space full of reverb, sounds far more intense than you'd ever expect. Honestly, no recording method can truly reproduce the feeling of pulling the trigger yourself. That's why most game sound designers hold back a little to protect players' ears. They won't completely replicate that violent, raw impact of reality. Of course, there are exceptions, Japan too. So Arc Raiders' indoor gunfire still maintains loudness control. But outdoors, the sound designers used wild, open echoes to emphasize the sense of vastness and the realism. Of course, that doesn't mean other games don't do similar things. For example, in Arena Breakout Infinite, if you fire a high-power sniper rifle without a suppressor, you will hear a long tail after each shot. And in Hunt Showdown, you can also hear that wide spatial echo, while continuous firing even causes temporary hearing loss. After realizing this, I tried designing an AKM gun sound in Reaper. For this video, I actually remade the sound from scratch. And this other one was something I made casually before. But to make a good gun sound, you really need to take the time to design it carefully. Then listen back to the echo. I used an effect to make it a bit wider. Then set everything up in UE5's MetaSound system, so the tail plays automatically when the shot ends. But when I tested it, it didn't work at all. Because in this project, the firing logic triggers a sound every time you press the button. So during automatic fire, the tail gets triggered with every bullet, and they start stacking up on top of each other. It sounds really strange, so I went back to Arc Raiders to see how it handles automatic fire. Turns out, as long as the player keeps firing, no tail plays at all. Only when the shooting completely stops does the tail trigger. If you listen closely, each shot still plays a full audio file. And the next shot interrupts the previous one before its tail can be heard. That's why the echo never overlaps. Single-shot weapons don't have this issue. Their tails naturally play out after each shot. And implementing that logic actually isn't very hard. You just need to use one sound instance with a full tail, so that each new shot simply replaces the previous one in playback. But here's the difference. Arc Raiders has a post-apocalyptic tone, so its gunfire is lightweight and dusty. Now I'm working on modern firearms, and I've already made a much more detailed mechanical sound. So I wondered, is there a way to keep the full body of the gun sound and still achieve that same firing logic? In my project, each shot spawns a bullet, and when the bullet is created, it plays the gun sound. But we only need the tail to trigger when the continuous shooting ends. My solution was to split the tail part in MetaSound and let the weapon blueprints handle playback. When a bullet is spawned, it sends a signal to the gun instance, which passes it to a retrigger node. As long as the node keeps receiving signals within a set time, it resets itself and doesn't move forward. Once it stops receiving signals, the tail node triggers, and just like that, I managed to recreate Arc Raiders' gunfire logic and sound field in my own way. In the end, I think Arc Raiders still has a lot to learn from. Once the full game launches, I will definitely dive deeper into its sound design again. See you next time. Bye.